Back in 1991, Freddie Mercury told his friends a secret that made them very angry. The Queen singer knew he was dying but hid it for years. Even though his body was weak, his voice stayed strong. To hide how sick he was, he made his last movie in black and white. In his last days, he quit taking all medicines except painkillers. He died 24 hours after telling everyone what he had done. We're gonna tell you what really happened to Freddie Mercury in his last days today. Born Farrokh Bulsara on September 5, 1946 in Stone Town, Zanzibar, Freddie Mercury became known as Freddie Mercury. He was born to Bulmi and Jair, who were Parsis with roots in India. They were from Bulsar, which is now called Valsad, in Gujarat. The Zoroastrian religion, which comes from ancient Persia, was practiced by his family. I could tell right away that Freddie was different. He was born with 4 extra teeth, and he eventually thought that his strong singing voice came from having an oddly shaped mouth. He could sing everything from deep bass to high voice. He was also born a British national because Zanzibar was still a British colony. He would later find out things about that small thing that would change his life forever. He had a sister named Kashmira when he was 6 years old. He finally became a citizen of the UK and its colonies many years later, in 1969. His early years in Zanzibar were peaceful and good just as his fame began to grow. His dad was a cashier in the High Court for the British Colonial Office. The family had a lot of respect because of that job. Most people didn't have as much comfort as they did. At first, Freddie went to a school run by missionaries. He was taught by Anglican nuns. It showed him what a British school was like, but in 1964 everything changed. In Zanzibar, there was a harsh change. A lot of Arabs and people from South Asia were killed. The Bulsaras had to run away. They ran away to England, leaving everything behind. Freddie was 17 years old. It was a rapid change from a beautiful island to Felton, which was cold and gray. Things never went back to normal. But the real beginning had already happened many years before. Freddie went to St. Peter's School in Panchgani, India when he was 8 years old. The boarding school was in the hills outside of Mumbai and was built in the style of the British Empire. The place was strict. The students had to wear suits, follow the rules, and speak English correctly. But there was a surprising event. The director thought Freddie was smart and asked his parents to pay extra for him to take piano lessons. Something big began because of that small choice. Freddie picked up quickly. He was better than good. He was smart. He painted, played the piano, played sports, and was in shows. He was quiet, but you could always see him. Because of his teeth, other kids called him Bucky. He didn't mind. He won an award at school when he was 12 for being the best all-around player. All in all, that's what Freddie was like. Very good at everything, but especially at being on stage. He went back to Zanzibar in 1963 with new ideas and a stronger sense of who he was. But he had already felt the thrill of the stage before that. He joined a band called the Hectics while he was at St. Peter's Celd. He was only 12 years old. Bruce, Derek, Farang, and Victory were the other 4 boys in the group. Elvis, Cliff Richard, and Little Richard's songs were played. At times, Freddie sang and played the piano. People were amazed at how simple it was for him to copy music by hearing it. He sped up and pressed the keys. The band became a bit of a hit at school events. The kids yelled, clapped, and danced. Freddie got his first taste of what it was like to be a star from all that attention when he was young. His style wasn't just influenced by rock music though. He also liked the music of Lata Mangeshkar, Kishore Kumar, and other great Bollywood artists. Their emotional singing would later have an effect on how Queen wrote dramatic and theatrical songs. Before he left St. Peter's Celd, he had already passed piano tests for grade 4. While Freddie was in Zanzibar in 1964, his world went apart. He was only 17 years old. It was very dangerous on the island. A wave of hate killed thousands of people who were like him and were Parsi Indian. His family had no choice. They ran away. They took what they could pack and ran away to England. We are leaving behind warmth, friends, and everything we know. They did not land in style or comfort. Their new life started in Feltham, a dull suburb of London that is a long way from the city centre. There was grey in the sky and on the houses. It was cold everywhere. For a boy who used to swim in blue water, this place was like being sent away. But something began to grow in that quiet. Freddie didn't just make it through the shock. He began to change. Once he was done with school, he went to Isleworth Polytechnic and then Ealing Art College. That's where the magic started. It was more than just a school. People who didn't fit in, like rebels and artists, could play there. That's where Freddie found his people. Those who didn't want to follow the rules. He went to school for graphic design, but he dreamed of singing just as much. He met Tim Stoffel. It worked. Both of them liked music and had plans outside of school. Freddie even helped make a magazine that made fun of the design world he was meant to join. What did he want? In his free time, Freddie was really into Hendrix. Something lit up as soon as he heard him. He did more than listen. He drew him, watched him act, and studied how he moved. He wished to have that much power on stage. He did not wish to sing. He wanted to be in charge. For that reason, he joined a band called Ibex. They weren't well known. They played in bars and in people's apartments. He was happy though. He could try things, fail, and then try again. He was changing into something else. He had his ears wide open. He took it all in. From the voice of Aretha Franklin to the words of John Lennon. He loved how the Beatles songs went together, but he also loved how Elvis was so crazy. He could mix blues, rock, and glam in his mind like a blender. He was selling clothes at Kensington Market with Roger Taylor at the same time. They had fun, worked together, and laughed a lot. It wasn't just a job to get paid. It made him look good. He learned what made him look good and what made people notice him. Perhaps not as for rock, but as Freddie. Things began to change for Freddie Bulsara when he was only 22 years old. His time at art school in London was over, and he didn't know what to do next. Then in August 1969, he met Ibex, a band from Liverpool. They weren't well known. They had only done a few shows, but Freddie liked something about them. And they liked something about him. In just 10 days, he learned all of their songs and added some of his own. Then he went to Bolton with them. This is where he first played a role on stage, at the Octagon Theatre. The crowd was seeing a star being born, but they didn't know it yet. Freddie did more than just sing. He got up. He amazed. He was in charge of the stage. It was something the band had never seen before. Someone said, "We used to just play and not worry about putting on a show." But Freddie made things different. He walked like a rock star even though he only had one shirt and one pair of pants. In October, Freddie was able to get the band to change their name. Ibex turned into Wreckage. The sound changed too. Freddie began to write more songs. He worked with guitarist Mike Burson on songs like Vagabond, Outcast, and Feway. They even taped Green in Freddie's London apartment. That recording would last, and years later it would be made public. It didn't last long though. After the band broke up, Freddie started a new project called Sour Milk Sea, but it didn't last long. That also didn't last. Freddie wasn't scared though. He had bigger ideas already. He once told the other guys in his old band, "We're not going to make it playing all this three-chord blues crap. We need to make up our own songs." Then the surprise that no one saw coming. Tim Stoffel quit his band on March 29, 1970. That band's name was Smile. And Brian May and Roger Taylor were also in it. Fred and Tim had been friends since art school. In 1965 they met. Fred didn't waste time when Tim left. He stepped up. It seemed like fate. Smile was already very good, but Freddie added something new and interesting. He had the words, the vision, and the faith to do it. He would go to their gigs and give them advice on how to do better even before he joined. Were Brian and Roger sure at first? Roger said in the end. "He was just my crazy friend. Not a singer. Just someone fun all the time." But quickly things changed. This was what Freddie had been waiting for. He couldn't get out after getting in. He told the band they needed to be more emotional. He told them to be brave on stage, in their outfits, and in everything else. He wished they were much bigger than life. He then came up with the name Queen. The music was great. It sounded very powerful. Brian and Roger thought for a while. They believed it might be too much. But Freddie did not give up. He said it was perfect, true for everyone, strong, and yes, even a little shocking. He changed his name to Mercury around the same time. It wasn't just a new band. Really, it was a whole new start. But they were not yet finished. They had to find a bassist. That part was hard. They tried a few, but none of them worked out. Then in 1971, they met John Deacon. As a student, he was quiet and only 19 years old. He wasn't flashy like the other guys. But he came to practice with his bass and an amp that was made just for him. That amp would later help make Queen's sound what it is today. He kept his cool, played well, and didn't try to get respect. That was good for the band. He was brought in. Queen was whole again. Even more people were affected by Freddie's music. He changed more than just the name. The image was also made by him. He drew a symbol using what he learned in art class. Fairies, cats, and a crab lived in it. Whole thing based on the band's star signs. They were for Roger and John, Brian with the crab, and Freddie with the fairies. He put it all around a big Q shape with a crown in the middle and a phoenix on top. The album cover looked royal, like it belonged to a band that was meant to rule the stage. But it wasn't easy for them to make their first record. Trident Studios is where they recorded it, where famous people like the Beatles used to work. Still, Queen wasn't very popular yet, so they could only use the studio at odd times, like late at night when everyone else was done. They would wait outside, then go inside and record until morning. It was very tiring. They didn't give up for months. There was more bad news when the record was over. It was pushed back. They waited for a long time. In July 1973, it finally came out. The reviews were not all good. Most people didn't get it, but some did. The band didn't care though. They were making something that would last a long time. In 1974, Queen still didn't know what they were all about. Their older albums had good songs, but they were all over the place. It's too long, too hard to understand, and tries too hard to be something else. But a heart attack changed everything. At this point, Freddie Mercury stopped trying new things with his sound and started taking it seriously. Even though the songs were only 3 minutes long, he made them feel bigger by making them tighter and adding drama and glitz. When Killer Queen came along, they were no longer just another band. They were the band. The song became a hit in both the UK and the US, and Queen finally made it big. Behind the scenes though, things were anything but glamorous. Queen had no money. Trident Studios, their record company, kept most of the money, and the band was paid like they were working part-time. They had hits, but they couldn't pay for a real place to live. John Deacon couldn't even get a loan for a house, and Freddie lived in a damp little apartment. That's when they lost it. They got out of jail after months of court cases, but it cost a lot. They had to pay a lot of money and give up their rights to future record royalties. They made the risky choice to make their most expensive record ever right when they were free. It wasn't just another record that A Night at the Opera was, it was a swing at the end. They used 7 studios and spent more money than any other British band ever had, and put everything they had on it working. They were done if it didn't work. They were under a lot of pressure, but it made them shoot higher. Freddie, who was always the bravest, came in with Bohemian Rhapsody, a 6-minute monster. At first no one could understand it. No choir, it's operatic nonsense. That person would play that on the radio. Freddie didn't ask though. He told, in one day he made a cheap but interesting movie. Pushed it out and changed how pop music works. It was #1 for 9 weeks. It was different from everything else, and it worked. He didn't just change the music with that song, he changed too. He changed when he was on stage. He wasn't just singing, he was also strutting, commanding and acting like he was crazy. He could make his voice go crazy high and sad low. He could sing to 20,000 people at once, and make each one feel like he was singing just for them. That broken mic stand he broke by accident. He used it as a tool, a weapon and a main move. When he sang Bohemian Rhapsody for the first time in public, it wasn't just a show, they were seeing a showman at his best. Then there was that 1977 night, the Bingley Hall. It started to rain after the band played, and then everyone started singing, "You'll Never Walk Alone." It wasn't planned. It happened right now. Freddie was amazed as he watched. He told Brian May, "We need songs for this. We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions were both based on that moment." 2 of the most famous stadium songs ever were written during an emotional moment with the people. Mercury was no longer just acting. People could scream back at him through the sounds he was making. They did it, every night. Queen had moved away from their glam rock roots by the time Another One Bites the Dust came out in 1980. The song was cool, edgier, and totally out of the blue. A lot of people thought Queen couldn't do that. They did though. They had their biggest hit in the US with it. Mercury was always moving. He moved around and changed things. That's why new people kept hearing his songs. He couldn't be held down. And with success came giving in. Mercury didn't think it was smart to save money. He thought it was worth paying. He bought things he liked. While his sister was sick, she got a new kitchen. He would have a diamond store open just for him if it was closed. It was crazy at his birthday party in Ibiza. There were 700 guests, a big cake shaped like Gaudi's church, and a lot of broken glasses by the end. Freddie did a lot more than just party. He made more noise than everyone else. But not everything he did was good. Queen chose to play in Sun City, South Africa, in 1984, which was in the middle of the apartheid government. It was allowed, but some people didn't like it. Culture was not allowed to be used. A lot of artists didn't want to go. Queen still went. Some people thought it was political, but they said it wasn't. The reaction was very bad. People called them out in protest songs and fined them. After many years, even the band realized they might have been wrong. They said they weren't doing it for money, but the damage was already done. Freddie Mercury was searching for new things all the time. In 1980, that chase took Queen to a new place. The music for the movie Flash Gordon. It wasn't a full-on rock record, and only a few of the songs had words. Brian May did most of the work. He learned how to use computers, which were new to the band at the time. Fans weren't sure what to think about it. Some people thought the music was more interesting than the show. Some people just didn't get it. The strange project did, however, point to something bigger. Queen was going to change course, but not everyone would follow. After only 2 years, they went even further off track with Hot Space. There was disco, funk, and synths all over the place. People didn't remember the Queen. It was fun for John Deacon and Freddie. They weren't Brian and Roger. It was clear that there was tension and harm. In Munich, long nights turned into long fights. A lot of people drank. Brian told me that they were emotionally broken. Roger said that Freddie's boss, Paul Prentor, was to blame for the band's move into gay club music. Some people thought it was a bad record. It hurt like being lied to. Fans turned away, but other people were still hearing. Michael Jackson wrote things down. People who play music listened. It could be a Hot Space flop. But in the years that followed, its marks were everywhere. Something magical took place in the middle of all this chaos. Queen and David Bowie met in a Swiss studio. It went from being a jam to being under pressure. That bass line, just a deacon. The power, full-on fight. Even though Freddie and Bowie fought all the time, that spark made the song iconic. It got to #1 right away. It also showed something. Even though things were going badly behind the scenes, they could still surprise people. There had to be a break by 1983. They were more than just tired, they were worn out. They had been arguing, recording and traveling for years. They stopped now. Queen pressed stop for the first time since the beginning. They were able to relax during the break, but it didn't make things better. The band was split in two. Freddie and Deacon wanted to dance more. Brian and Roger held on to the rock. Things got worse because Freddie was loyal to the printer. They were able to think about who they were and what they could still become during that quiet time. Then the work began in 1984. It gave them a fresh start. Fred brought his style, Deacon added some beats. But Brian and Roger got their guitars back in the end. It had a good mix of rock and pop sounds. Radio Gaga went crazy. A lot of people sang "I Wanna Break Free." The band came back. They were #1 for almost 2 years. And this time everyone noticed except Americans. The band was in dress in the video for "I Wanna Break Free." The UK got the joke. MTV did not. The video was taken down. Fans turned away. People in Rio threw things at Freddie when he wore the outfit on stage. It was terrible, and Queen never fully got better in the US after that. Freddie didn't back off. He needed to prove something else. His solo record, Mr. Bad Guy, came out in 1985. There was no Freddie in it. No giving in, just him. He made it for his cats and put dance beats, sad tunes and silly songs on it. Different people liked it or not. The US didn't even notice. But it wasn't about sales for Freddie. It had to do with freedom. He had been stuck in the Queen machine for years. He was now following his own plan. After that, he did something that no one saw coming. He worked with Montserrat Caballé, an opera singer. He was able to get her to say yes because she was one of his heroes. They met in a Barcelona hotel. He sang her parts in falsetto on a demo he played for her. She was shocked. It was magic that they recorded Barcelona. No one had ever put together opera and rock music like that before. People sang this song when Barcelona was picked to host the 1992 Olympics. They even made a record together. Like Freddie, it was brave, odd, and beautiful. Freddie Mercury was aware that time was running out, but that didn't stop him. He went back into the studio with Queen in early 1988, just a few months after being told he had HIV. They started recording again. He didn't tell anyone. His goal wasn't to get pity, his only wish was to sing. He gave everything he had, even though it hurt and scared him. The result was The Miracle, a record that didn't sound like a goodbye but like a victory. It was the #1 song in Europe. It was a surprise in more than one way, but no one knew it yet. After that came Innuendo. Before they worked on that record, Freddie's body was not as strong, but his voice was still very strong. After the fact, Brian May said that Freddie had told them to keep writing songs. He didn't care that he was sick, he was eager to keep going. "You can finish it when I'm done," he told them. He gave them everything while he was still here though. The lead track got to #1, just like him it was brave, scary and clever, but it was getting harder to hide the truth in public. In 1990, on February 18th, Freddie went on stage at the Brit Awards to accept an award for lifetime success with Queen. He only said 5 words: "Thanks and good night." His silence said more than anything he said. At that moment, the stories that had been going around for years seemed very real. He looked thin and tired. He smiled anyway. He made a sign. Even his fans didn't want to see how much pain he was in. Later, his friends said they never talked about how sick he was. It was a rule that no one said. They didn't ask Freddie to say it if he didn't want to. He kept recording when he got back to the studio. He could hardly stand some days, he could only sing for an hour or two some days. He still showed up though. People who worked with him as an engineer said it wasn't a sad place. A lot of people laughed. The mood was kept light by Freddie. He didn't give up. Even when his body was. He said yes right away when they asked if he could sing on The Show Must Go On. "I'll fucking do it, darling," he said. After drinking some vodka, he did it perfectly on the first try. That act turned out to be one of the most important in his career. His last music video, These Are the Days of Our Lives, was shot in May 1991. If you didn't pay close attention, you wouldn't know it was goodbye. It was black and white to hide how sick he really was. He wore a shirt with pictures of his cats on it. He laughed and smiled and did take after take until he was happy. At the end of the video, he looked the camera straight in the eyes and said, "I still love you." That was the last thing he said. He knew what was going to happen and told everyone he loved them until the very end. In November, after a few months, he made up his mind for sure. No more medicine. Only drugs. He was all set. He wished for peace. His friends were with him all the time. He was no longer able to paint. He laughed even though he couldn't see well. He still talked about the past. On November 22nd, he told his manager at Queen's to make a public statement stating that he had AIDS. The news came out at 8 p.m. At that very moment, Freddie Mercury smiled while lying in bed. His helper told him it was the calmest he had seen him in years. The secret was no longer there. It was almost over with the fight. After less than 24 hours, Freddie Mercury died at 6:48 p.m. on November 24, 1991. He was 45 years old. The world didn't have a say anymore. He was a celebrity, and the first rock star to die of AIDS in public, back when people were embarrassed by the word itself. The conversation became more important after he died. It was no longer possible to ignore it. But even after he died, Freddie left a puzzle that could not be solved by singing. Everyone knew that he was burned at the West London cemetery, Kensal Green. What his ashes became was unknown to everyone. They were left untouched for more than a year. Mary Austin, who used to be his lover and best friend, took them in the end, but she never said where they went. Fans found a small plaque in the graveyard in 2013. It had his real name, the dates of his birth and death, and a message written in French with only a mess as a signature. But it was gone quickly. It was probably taken away to keep the secret.